আমি কি এমতি রবু
Mi pueblo en tu corazón.
El 30 de agosto voy a celebrar.
Patrona
Mr. David Ellenbogen, you'll have to forgive me. I thought we were going to be seeing a direct performance of you, but we saw an assemblage and a highlight reel of your incredible work that you have put together musicians from all over the world into this amazing festival called Ragas Live. And for those of you who missed it, where can they find the recording or the footage? It was incredible.
Yeah.
Cinematography too. It's just you did an impeccable job bringing this to life across continents this year because it had to be remote.
Yeah, well, thanks, Josh. Nice to be with you and everybody remotely. That was, I think we were in 15 different cities and countries like Madagascar and Nepal and Venezuela. And I guess in those clips, we saw music from, let me see, I started writing down. Well, we started with Amir El Safar project, bringing Maqam, which is kind of the raga equivalent, or the equivalent of raga in the Middle Eastern traditions, and raga together. And then we saw stuff from, where did we go? Well, we definitely saw Betsaida Machado, Afro-Venezuelan tradition. We saw Tumani Jabate, the amazing kora player. Yeah. We saw Parvati Bowell representing the Bowell tradition. We saw the singers from Rajasthan, Rajasthani folk musicians called Dundora. And
we were in the beautiful church with the clarinetist.
Right. Oh, well, that was actually a synagogue on the Upper West Side. Yeah, and I was playing on that one with Jay Gandhi and Andy Statman, who's considered like the most one of the most important klezmer musicians and also a bluegrass master. And then we finished all those clips with In D, which is Brooklyn Raga Massive's new album. And that is available actually on Bandcamp and everywhere. And that had 25 musicians, and Neil Murgai and I wrote that as a tribute to Terry Riley, a great composer, who actually played on the festival too.
Oh yeah, he closed things out. Yeah. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. And sorry, I didn't actually directly answer your question because we're still figuring out how people can see all this stuff. Every day I'm getting emails. If you subscribe to my podcast, NYC Radio Live, you can hear some of it. Week to week, I'm releasing the audio side, and the videos are coming soon. There's one on Facebook, on YouTube. And then also this Ragas Live retrospective, which I think they put the link in the chat. That's an album that has a lot of the music from the past years.
So you've just been running the last few months probably to get all this together. Now you're finally getting to take a breath, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, we've done this festival that you've been there since the beginning. It was just a radio festival. And I know your theme is generosity. The musicians were generous enough, and the engineers, and it was all volunteer effort for the first 5 years. It was just a broadcast on the radio at WKCR, which is radio for most of you is this old format where people would listen to frequency modulation of waveforms that would come out sounding like music through your playback device. It still exists.
Sounds like magic,
and
that way.
I know. It sounds so. It sounds like something they're still working on.
Yeah, futuristic. Wait, we have this now? We've had this for a while?
Well, yes, but fewer and fewer people know about it. So yeah, all these musicians just did this as a volunteer thing, and then it was inevitable that it became a live concert. And then, so that was 4 years in a row. We've been at the Rubin Museum and Pioneer Works, and it's 24 hours, 24 sets. This year was 90 musicians, and past years it's something like that, 70 musicians. And we go around the cycle of ragas, which are Indian classical modes, which are time specific. So the concept is to bring everybody, all these listeners around the world on the radio or internet,
Can you give a couple
and then all the people
of
in the room.
those time-specific modes?
Sure. I mean, like there's a mode called Bhairavi, and it's associated with sunrise, and it's like, got a kind of devotional feeling, or there's other modes that have more of a romantic feeling, and it's kind of very specific, and it's interesting to this particular group in that the scales are kind of non-Western. The notes don't conform exactly to what's on a piano. It's kind of a Greg Barris type conspiracy, some think.
Out of the blood pyramid.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's not true. That is not accurate. It's not true.
Yeah.
But it does make for an incredible curatorial framework to work within the raga modes over 24 hours to experience that cycle as a listener. And then for you, producing the festival, bringing the different acts together, curating the sets, how do you decide or figure out who should go where, who should play to which mode, who should be the romantic set, and who should be the sunrise set or the sunset?
Well, I mean, we got together. I have a fun group, and we hung out, and we made a list of artists, and then we decided to kind of dream big and say, all right, what if let's use our creativity. What if money was no object? Who would be on our dream list? And this year, actually, because times have changed, nobody said no. So we ended up getting Zakir Hussain, who's the most well-known tabla player, and we got Terry Riley, who's kind of our idol. Yeah, and we ended up getting Tumani Jabate, who you saw, who was the first musician to bring the kora, which is that African harp, to the international prominence. And then this year is very interesting because you're not only thinking about when they're going to be placed in terms of sunset to sunrise for your time zone. Now there's people watching. We had something like 75,000 people tune in. So we had to think about what was prime time for somebody in Chennai or Rajasthan. So, we're thinking about all those things, and that's kind of the fun part, is actually how to make it kind of feel like Disneyland. You're starting out in Brooklyn, and then you're in Rajasthan, and then you're in Venezuela, and now you're in Nepal. So all those things, go into figuring out the
it was a
duration.
smorgasbord. It was a cornucopia of music and cultures and just beautiful people. It was such an incredible experience, and kudos also to the visual production, which really made me personally feel like I was traveling to all these places. I loved even the interstitials and the graphics. It
Yeah,
really was so seamless. It was this elevated broadcast that I've actually never seen production like that before. And I've
wow.
produced film, I've produced
Yeah.
Netflix stuff, but this was really an achievement, David.
Oh, thank
So
you. Well, the visuals is thanks to Adrian Tillman. He was our art director, and he is unbelievably talented. He's mostly known as a jazz photographer. I think AHT 1985 is his handle, and he was the secret of why those things looked so good. But then there was an amazing animator, and then all those visuals. We asked all the artists to send like 10 minutes of background videos, handheld stuff. So that's how we had drone footage of Rajasthan, and we had handheld footage of the fishermen off the coast of Madagascar and all that. And
but putting it all together, it was comprehensive, it was personal, it was epic, it was all these things, and then really contextualize the music in a way that isn't possible in the in-person concert, which of course there's no substitute for that either. From my experience previously of attending Ragas live, it's this like unbelievable sandwich of all this music that just like gets crammed into your soul over 24 hours, and I walk out the next day kind of utterly reshaped, just because it's all this music. But this also was it was this other kind of dimension of journeying to these places too, to see people in their places, the musicians.
I think it wasn't on purpose, but I think we kind of stumbled onto like the world music concert or festival like 2.0, and,
Yes.
and instead of travel, instead of seeing what it's like to see Afro-Venezuelan musicians performing in your local theater, you get to see what it's like when they're playing by the river, and a fisherman comes by on his boat and stops to watch. So I think that probably this format is going to stick around. So many people donated, which was really heartwarming. I mean, this has been, as I was saying, mostly, and then it was all volunteer, and then it still feels like, that kind of effort. No one's doing this to get rich. So to see how, I don't know, over 500-600 people, it was free, but 500 or 600 people donated. And it was just incredible. And people who are still moved, they if they buy the album that is at the link, the Ragas Live retrospective, that goes towards next year's festival as well.
Well, perhaps I'm a little bit biased as a longtime BRM fan and an audience member, but I have to say that the Ragas Live Festival just might be the most exciting thing in music today.
Can I quote that and call you the New York Times?
Yeah, of course. But to keep things moving a little bit, I do want to hear about Indie, because this is a long developing project, and I think people would like to hear about how you forged this collaboration with Terry Riley, who's this incredible composer.
Okay, and you know what? I can give you guys the real truth, which we left out of the liner notes and the press release. So basically, Neil Murgai.
Greg Barris's ears are going, ooh. They just did like a dog thing. Whoop.
So
Real truth.
yeah, the way this came about was Neil Murgai, who's your good friend of mine, a great sitar player. He was looking for a project to kind of bring together this whole burgeoning community of raga musicians in Brooklyn. And he thought that Terry Riley's In C would be the perfect project because what it is, it's the piece that in 1964 launched the genre of music called minimalism. And you guys know minimalism, even if you don't know, you know it, because it's the type of music associated with Philip Glass, and maybe you know Steve Reich or something. It's in movies and all that stuff. And
Klein.
Sure, yeah, all these people, and Terry Riley is considered to have launched that with this piece in C. And the way it works is that there are small cells of music, and the musicians can play each one of these cells for as long as they want, and they can subdivide it, and they can double the speed or come in on any part of the beat. And it kind of creates this like impressionist art, and they all have to stay within 3 or 4 cells. So this kind of fractally
It's like a
ooze
vortex
of music. Yeah, and it just goes along, and it follows a shape. And so we recorded it, and we somehow hit big. This is the kind of thing that critics like and stuff. So Brooklyn Raga Massive our second performance, we got big articles in the Times and Wall Street Journal and all this stuff. And so we figured we'd release an album. And the whole time Neil had been writing Terry. And Terry Riley somehow saw the video that our friend Ian Cinco made, and it was released on NPR. He just happened to see it and was very moved, and he wrote us a letter that he wanted to work with us, and he was going to write a piece and perform it and record it. And we were laughing, we were crying, and some of us went out to California, and we were there. Some people were on the tour all ready to go, and some people, schmoes like me, just went to play like, you know, a little coffee house gig, but really to go and play with, meet the maestro, Terry Riley. And we were trying to decide what should we buy him. And we were in the liquor store, and we, you know, said, all right, let's get him the best bottle. And we're pointing to the Yamazaki. And at that moment, Neil Murgai doubled over, and I thought he was going to throw up. I went and I grabbed a, you know, plastic bag or something to hand to him. Turned out he was looking at his phone, and Terry Riley had to cancel. That's life, you know. He's 83 at the time. His travel plans were a little rougher than he realized. And, you know, we went to a dispensary, and we bought a can of something, and we went to the park, and we opened it up. It was sealed. Opened the seal. It was empty. It was just one of those days. Everything was, the universe was sending us a message. So that
I
night,
can't believe Neil survived. That's a lot of bad turns for Neil. Poor Neil guy.
Yeah, exactly. So that night, to cheer him up, you know, I wrote down on a piece of paper, I said, you see what this is? This is in D. And we're going to write it right now. And, you know, we got a considerably cheaper bottle of whiskey. And we wrote the piece, and that's kind of a couple lucky turns. At that point, doors started opening up. Someone canceled the orchestra gig, and we took it and performed it once, and then we got a nice grant, and 25 of us went in during this quarantine. And as you saw in the video, we're all 6 feet apart. We had masks, and that's a single take of music. It's really beautiful. I recommend people go on that journey. It goes through 3 ragas, and it's our own take on In C. And Terry just loved it. He called me up the minute that the Ragas Live Festival ended, and he just said it was so gorgeous. And that he said this is what the world needed. Speaking about the festival on the whole, but so that's indie, and you can hear it anywhere.
It's available now. What a great story of creativity, friendship. It saves the day, and music, bringing people together. Well, thank you so much, David. Keep up the good work. I'll be listening, and I can't wait till we can take a nice hike and get some chai with our next guest, Shaun.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, I got another guy I have immense respect for. Well, great to spend time with everybody, and thanks to you, Josh, and the whole ResonantMind Collective.
Yes, thanks for holding it down. We'll talk to you again soon. We'll bring you back for sure. We got to keep up with what you're up to.